Good afternoon, sticky lunches, he says. Where's that from the beginning slide? There we are. Boom, we're in. Welcome to today's session. Part 4 of HBDI. I'm getting better with this now. I keep getting confused with my acronyms. Who have we got in? We're just waiting for the last few people to arrive. Gareth, good to see you. Howard, thanks for being here. Cindy, thanks for being here again. Colin, Martin, Victoria, Fabienne, wonderful. Thanks for being here. Last people coming into the room. As always, let's make sure we're getting everyone set up for success. Mobile phones, little airplane lit up, 0 out distraction, 100% attention on what we're doing here, making sure that you've got a drink, keep yourself hydrated and your brain lubricated to make sure this learning sticks. And finally, as the third part of this is always, get a fresh page for fresh thinking. And these are the things that you want to remember, that you want to reread and reignite that thinking so that you can keep this learning expanding. I say we dive in, Andy, we see where this goes, and if people are late, so be it. That's their loss. So, welcome to today's Sticky Learning with me, Nathan Simmonds, Senior Leadership Coach and Trainer for MBM, Making Business Matter, home of Sticky Learning. We are the leadership development and soft skills provider to the grocery and manufacturing industry, and the idea of these sessions is to help you be the best version of you in the work that you do, whether that's from home or returning back to the office. Right now, we're hitting what? Day 4, is it day? No, it's day 3 of HBDI. And we're looking at practical ways to make your work easier.
Why not?
Where are we going, Andy?
Sounds good. I was just looking at that photo of me in the slide deck. I reckon I've been trading off that for about 5 years.
We need to update that.
Indeed. Okay, good. Afternoon, everyone. Where we're going, we're going to build off the last 2 days with some further application of the HBDI Herrmann Brain Dominance Instrument Model. So day 1, we talked about what is it and getting into the background using our words up here. Today, we're going to look into some areas around giving feedback. I know that's going to link nicely to what you've got going on next week, Nathan. How to recognize styles, because I think that came up as a question yesterday. And then I've got some other areas that we can dip into depending upon time. The other bit I'm really keen to do today is almost that kind of live Q&A. We've hopefully kind of intrigued you over the last couple of days, so you may well have generated some questions or some thoughts. I'd like to spend some time going through that today, making sure that you feel very comfortable, you're getting a good understanding of this, and then allowing you to springboard off and kind of make it your own as appropriate. And to that point, thank you again to all those people that have purchased profiles already. We'll be getting those instructions and the online questionnaire out to you in the next a few hours. Thanks again, and reminder to those, if you do want to buy your own profile, 10% off for this week. So Nathan, we'll get a link dropped in there for those that continue to be interested.
I was going to say, you're not going to get it cheaper anywhere at any other point of this, as you are going to get it now. So if you haven't got a copy, if you haven't got your own profile, and you're looking to get that deeper insight into yourself, which supports the leadership model that we've already covered, which supports how we're delivering feedback next week, now's the time to do it, for sure.
Perfect. Right, Nathan, I'm going to ask you to jump straight to slide 16, if you wouldn't mind. Question came out yesterday, I think it was from Mohammed, correct me if I'm wrong, apologies if I am, but we were talking about famous people through history. We might have to come down one more, Nathan.
There we go.
There we go, perfect. So we're talking about famous people through history and where they would potentially sit on our model. I say potentially because, of course, I wasn't able to get these guys to all complete their Herrmann profiles in the last 24 hours. I reached out to a few of them, a couple of them weren't available. But have a good look around that. You'll start to get a sense of where people would sit within this model. Likes of Bertrand Russell up there, philosopher and mathematician, sits nicely up in the blue. Come down into green, let's pull out Susan B. Anthony. I think she was social reformist for women's rights, and the steps and the stages that she went through to make that happen. Up into the yellow, the likes of Jeff Bezos, entrepreneur, Amazon, Blue Horizon, lots of things that he's got going on there. We can see Steve Jobs up there as well, another big entrepreneur and big visionary thinker. Coming down into the reds, we've got people there such as Louis Armstrong, just going to prove it really is a wonderful world. See what I did there?
I gotta say, I see what you did there. My question to people watching this is are there any people on there that you're surprised that they're in those quadrants? Anyone you want to call out as to why, doesn't quite fit, or you're surprised to see them. While they're coming in, good. The question that I've got already that comes off that is Abraham Lincoln's right in the middle there. What's going on with that?
Abraham Lincoln. So the answer was, I think it came back the other day. It was a question on day one. You know, can you be equal across all those quadrants? Understanding and considering the things that he did and how he did them, they believe that he sits in that middle, so he could have a square across all those quadrants. That half works with my finger. Something to a bit of a weather person.
Yeah, it's nice. We'll get your backdrop.
Yeah, so he maybe sits in the middle and has an equal preference to all of those quadrants.
Nice, nice. It's good to see some of the people in there to start to understand how they're thinking as, or where they focus their thinking in order for them to achieve what they've done.
Absolutely. Did we get questions or thoughts coming in, or has everyone gone, yeah, that makes sense?
Nothing. I think everyone's quite happy with that. If there's no answers, we'll take that as a confirmation they're comfortable with where everyone is on there.
Fine, fantastic. Let's go down another slide, please, Nathan. I'm going to introduce topic around giving feedback. Feedback is that free gift that can just absolutely improve people, and if delivered in the right way, it becomes a super powerful thing. I know you're going to get into this in a lot more detail next week, Nathan. You've got a particular area of expertise on this. I wanted to link it in nicely because actually we can also use the Herrmann profile to deliver feedback in a way that will be more comfortably and easily more received depending upon the audience and who they are. So we're going to talk around feedback in a minute. I'm then going to share some slides on how you can recognize styles, because I appreciate we can't go in, or we could, but we can't, and we don't always know other people's thinking, decision making, communicating preferences. But I've got a few slides that can hopefully give those little tells and give those indicators. That said, and very similar to yesterday when we were talking about expectations of the audience, if unsure, let's get a tick in each of those boxes. Again, spot those things that resonate with people and they kind of, oh, I guess that's kind of going in and making sense. We start to really build on those particular areas. So giving feedback, if we would start up in our A quadrant, our blue quadrant, if we're giving feedback to someone that has a high preference here, it's got to be about precise, logical facts and detail. It's sticking to the data and ensuring that it's delivered in a way that is absolutely clear cut. When I talked yesterday about the blue quadrant being kind of very black and white, they don't want too much ambiguity. They just want to know what it was and being very precise and very logical in delivering that set of feedback. That makes sense? It makes sense to Nathan. That's good. Coming down into our green quadrant, people here, they're going to need to see the structure and the organization of the feedback. They're not going to want it too woolly. They're not going to want it delivered in a way that it's going to be hard for them to interpret. So we need to have that sequential approach. Again, paying attention to the detail. It's that whole left brain thing going on. So it's got to be done in a very safe, risk-averse way to ensure that as they're receiving that feedback, they're getting it in a way that just works for them. So we can break that feedback down in steps and stages, helping it unfold for them, and all with a view that it just gets absorbed in a far more powerful way than if we were to maybe deliver it on the opposite side or the diametrically opposing quadrant to a yellow person. They're going to want metaphors. They're going to want to understand stories and what ultimately the outcome or the piece that could happen if based on that particular bit of feedback. So it's about definitely being a bit more creative and holistic in delivering it in maybe in a more imaginative way, as opposed to being too rigid and too detailed, which is going to more better appeal to our people over on the left-hand side. Coming down into our red quadrant, it's paying more attention to the empathy side of people, using eye contact, making sure it's delivered in a way that doesn't unbalance the feelings that they will have on that particular thing. And sometimes feedback delivered wrongly can be horribly detrimental. We've got to do it right. And for the Reds, it's going to be hugely important that it feels right for them, and using those words like feeling. Okay, let me pause there for a moment. Nathan, your thoughts, because I know this is a hot topic for you.
Absolutely, and partly we're going to get into this a little bit in feedback, so this is wonderful that we're lining these two elements up. Is always, it's the prime thing that we learn in influencing skills. What's in it for me? But the issue with actually teaching people what's in it for me is, oh yeah, put yourself in their shoes and think about what's in it for me, but you don't put yourself in their shoes. You just walk out of the classroom thinking, what's in it for me? And actually you need to think about what's in it for them. How do they need to hear this? What words do they use? What's going to emotionally resonate with them? And how do I make sure they get that message and they hear it so that they can do what they need to do? And then in turn, I get what I need by giving them what they need. And it's not a chicken and egg scenario. It's got to be about, making sure they can hear it so you get what you need as a secondary side, as a side effect.
Terrific, terrific. Okay. What are people's thoughts on that? Kind of maybe just have a quick few questions if we've got them, because I'm keen to kind of make the use of the time that we've got. So if there's anybody's got thoughts in the moment.
Yeah, so clearly links back to the point that they are the focus of what I do. They are the focus of what you do. Absolutely, Colin. Question here from Victoria is, are there more people in each quadrant, i.e. more blues in the world? I've done similar profile and I'm split fairly equally across 34% red, 31% green, 26 yellow and 9 blue. I'm not sure if this is common or unusual.
I think if we were to assess the entire 7 billion people or so on the planet, we'd see broad balances and averages across those particular areas. There's then some quite interesting cultural and country biases that tend to happen. I guess the short answer is yes, there's balance, but then we can look into it a whole host of other ways. I have to be careful with my next statement because it can often get taken out of context. If we were to look at, say, just a split between male and female, we often see that females are far more red down here. And why people can get a little bit maybe uncomfortable or feel that that's maybe not what they want to hear, we've got to then kind of look back at ourselves as a species and understand it is often the female species that are the nurturers, the child, it's all that stuff that's going on. So throughout our evolution, naturally we see females down here a little bit more in the red. But that said, going back to your point, I think there's a good balance across all of these quadrants if we were to look at it as a far more broader point of view.
I agree, and I think evolution and biology is starting to shift that, where you're seeing, the variety of genders and kind of the blurred line that's happening in those spaces, which is, it's going to be an interesting thing that I don't think we're going to see the end of that game plan, not in this lifetime.
And I keep banging on about this point because it's super important. This is about preference to communication, decision making. What it is pigeonholing people going, oh, the ladies are here and all the men are up there. It's not like that at all, and absolutely we can't do that because it's A, not appropriate, and B, we have got a whole brain and we have access to all of it. That's super important.
And that's the important part. And like you said before, if you put yourself in one of those categories and say, oh, I can't do that, you stop yourself from seeing the world in a different way that's going to support you moving forward. Yeah,
it almost becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy. Oh, I'm only this, I'm only that, I'm not going to touch that stuff. We've always got to push and make effort and have a level of botheredness to continue being the best version of ourselves.
Agreed.
Come down to one more slide for me, Nathan, because it kind of builds on it, but also builds on the point you just made. It's about making the person the center of, maybe for feedback, making them the important one. This sort of builds on it nicely, but it's about how we can design or be considerate to when we're teaching someone something. And that learning can happen in a classroom, similar to what you and I do for a living, but it also happens in a one-to-one basis. We're developing the people that we work with. And we can then be mindful of how we're training them, coaching them, guiding them, encouraging them, delegating to them, and all those different management tools that we have, but doing it in a way, again, that's going to resonate with them, because how you would want to receive it could be very different to how they want to receive it. What I'm not going to do is talk around all of those words in that box. You're largely scanning it and you're seeing the differences and the similarities between those areas, but it just allows you to have, again, that toolbox that you can select various things from depending upon the situation that you're in. And it was all about that, dialing stuff up, dialing stuff down based on the audience or the individual or the situation. So there's some core pieces there that, again, hopefully provide a little bit of thought provocation. And again, just building on that toolkit that we all have.
Nice. What questions are coming up?
You and then, Nathan, just it's quicker to get an answer from you. What's in there that kind of resonates with you?
It's just, for me as an L&D practitioner and a coach and consultant and all those things, it's just about making sure that we are ticking the boxes. So you can see that there's the hands-on activities, they're the icebreakers. And some people actually get irritated by icebreakers because it's not their thing, but at the same time, it is someone else's. So whenever you're in that kind of team environment, again, it's helping the people in your team understand it's not all about them, and getting them to kind of have that philosophy as a leader, that they start thinking, well, actually, this is for the benefit of other people in the team. So I'm going to play along with this and support it because it supports them.
Absolutely. And I often be very, very overt with exactly that point and say to a group of people, hey, look, some stuff is going to resonate with you more than others. And then in turn, the flip could happen later on. Be mindful, because of all of this stuff, that certain things will float your boat, others will not. But for the person sat next to you or opposite you, it's going to be very, very different. And we can do the stuff around kind of signposting, or we're going to be, for the next 20 minutes, we're going to be doing a session on blah. The greens just go, right, good, I get this. For the yellows, we can go, right, we've got some imagery that we're going to use to help bring us to life so they can start to create that mental picture. Got to get a tick in all of these boxes, and at the same time know that not everything will resonate with everyone all of the time, and just being comfortable with that.
Agreed. And I thought I'd shut my email down and it suddenly appeared. Apologies for that.
All right.
So where else can we take this in? Now, no, not at all. So anything that we've got in here that we can kind of best use, how can we take this stuff and then take it to another level while we're working with our people?
I think the first part is having that awareness that we can do stuff differently. It's moving from that place of, for want of a better word, conscious incompetence through to being consciously aware that we can do stuff differently, and then testing stuff out. And as we take those small confident steps of trying different things, figuring out what works for us, doing more of that, figuring out what stuff doesn't work for us, and then doing less of that, but constantly having that continuous improvement cycle going, and at the same time not trying to do it all at once, because we're going to fall over.
And maybe we start that with one or two people in our team that we go, okay, well, actually, what quadrant do they sit in? If you've got them to do a profile, maybe you drip feed those profiles into your team or into a small unit inside your business. Start to have a look at that, and then start to see what it is they need in order for you to communicate with them, and start building on that, and then start to move that out into wider circles of the business. Absolutely.
Okay, let's continue to move on. Just again, I'm mindful of time. We're probably pushing fast towards 20 past. It was a question yesterday, and I said I'd come back to it today, so I absolutely wanted to, was how can we recognize styles? Easiest way, get people to complete a questionnaire. I mentioned that one earlier. Other than this, you've got to look for those details. So I've got a few slides again. We're just going to bounce off them a little bit. And you'll start to help bring this to life again, but also help you to then go, maybe that person is such and such. Let me explore that a little bit more. Let me test my theory. Let me test my hypotheses on it. And then maybe I can tailor some things I do with them differently. So for the blues, this is absolutely about fact. It's about illustrating points clearly. Emotions are obviously kind of displayed slightly more abstractly. You're not going to have those big, oh, that's amazing, that's brilliant, I'm absolutely loving this. It's far more kind of calmer. So we can start to spot those people that are talking in facts, talking in details, and enjoying those things, and at the same time maybe not getting as much of an emotional reaction to certain situations that we would probably see somewhere else down here.
So my question to those people that are listening in, who do you know that is a blue? Who in your world that you interact with and interrelate with on a regular basis is in that blue quadrant? Where are we going to next? Let's have a look.
Let's go down to green. Brilliant. Greens, again, these are some of the things that they will display. They're going to be very concrete in their speaking, very matter of fact. Again, they will ask questions that have answers, and why that seems like quite a strange sentence. When we move through to yellow, again, you'll start to see the differences that thing. So if they ask a question, they know there's an answer, and that you're getting that they want that answer. And it is about completing sentences and not dropping off midway because their brain's gone off into some other dimension. So again, it's this whole left brain thing going on that's about logic and fact and rationality, order, process. Again, you can start to spot those people. And again, same question as Nathan's just posted. Consider those people in your world, whether it's personal or professional, and you go, maybe so-and-so is a green, or maybe they're a blue or a red or a yellow. And you can start to maybe test your hypotheses in the coming days.
Good.
Yeah, let's.
And then I was going to say, it's those people that, who in your life is agreeing. And there's a reason I'm asking this question is because as you get into next week with the feedback and what we're looking at here, is starts to tailor your conversation to fit those people.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, our reds people are people that light up the room. So this is about face animated eye contact. There's some of this stuff going on. These guys may use stories to illustrate points, far more non-verbal gestures, and then maybe spotting at times they're good communicators, so they talk out loud and they may talk to themselves, and you're going to hear that stuff. And it's all that brilliant red stuff coming through that's absolutely about feeling and communication. And you can spot these guys. These will be the people that come in and they want to know about you. How was your weekend? What did you get up to last night? They want to hear, and they genuinely have botheredness for you. And likewise, they're going to expect that back from them. I used to have a similar situation where I'd come home from work. My wife would want to know how my day was. I had no motivation or need to tell her about it, but it was important to her. So now we have that time, and I've learned to take the time now to ask her how her day is, because apparently that's super important as well.
It is to a long-lasting marriage as well, Andy.
Yeah, and I'm starting over the last few days. I've started to realise I may well be compressing that duration. So yeah, brilliant.
There we go.
Last but not least, are yellow quadrants. These people are far more whimsical, far more speaking kind of phrases. They do and can tend to stop mid-sentence because their brain's gone further off into the future. And to that point, the opposite of the green, asking questions that lead to other questions, not necessarily asking questions that have answers. So it's far more abstract, and it's about using those metaphors and those imagery to bring things to life. And you'll know those people, and certainly you'll spot these people easier if you're not in that quadrant. From over here, you go, oh, that's why they talk like they do. I thought they were just a bit, oh. And again, we've got to come back to this tolerance part there. Just become when someone speaks or acts or communicates in a different way, just potentially because they come from maybe an opposite quadrant to yourself. So again, banging home that point, it's got to be all about tolerance and then being mindful of what they need and giving it to them.
I mean, interesting thing is, so I know that I'm kind of in the yellow, bordering on the red, so I can dip into the emotional. My wife is green and dips into the red, so that's where we meet in our conversations, but we are diametrically opposed in a lot of things. It's just the way that we work. But when I look at myself as a coach, I ask questions that lead to other questions. But I use the coaching framework in order to make sure that it's funneling in and actually getting, and I'm asking a question that's leading to a point. It may not be my point, it's that other person's point. So again, it's just dialing up those relevant elements to help people get results.
Absolutely, absolutely, brilliant. Okay, so there were the 4 quadrants. Again, just dipping into each of those 4 stars, helping you to maybe recognize them better. Come back to that point if unsure, ticking each box. Let's see what questions we've got. Maybe we've got a little bit of time left at the end of our 3rd and final day. See what questions people have got.
One thing that was questioned directly to me is I would have seen you as a green. There are elements of it which I switch on and off. But when I think very, very big, and I think about combining ideas, and I think very abstractly. So I have, when I'm working in certain spaces, I have a fairly, not unique, but a fairly kind of focused ability to take 2 completely different ideas, smooth them together and create a 3rd object. Yeah, and that's very yellow of me. I use the green to create that form, to create the structure. But I also know on the other side of that, there is you win hearts and minds. You don't win minds and hearts. So it has to be the hearts first. So you have to work in that emotional space before people even want to hear the facts and the details. Or if they do want to hear the facts and details, it actually is bolstered up by the emotional content and the impact that stuff has on people. So it's about switching those things on at the right time. Yeah. And I also think it's about leveraging the strengths out of each of them. So when we talk about form, if you look at a training session, if you look at a sticky learning lunch, or you look at one of our virtual classrooms, we talk about there's a clear structure to it. So every one of these sessions, as we built them up over the course of the 9 weeks, has started to build that framework that we then just slot the elements into, that gives you that structure, and people understand what they're going to get from these sessions. They understand where the session's going to go to.
I think it's absolutely right, Nathan. Anything we do in design, start with the why. Why are we doing this? Why what's our objectives for this session? What do we want to give to the good people that have come in? What, I'm coming down to the detail, how we're going to deliver it, who's going to be involved, the structure, the agenda, and they all just link together. And talking through like that stuff's all just obvious, but sometimes we can maybe skip one or two of these areas in tasks or projects or situations that we do, and we can wonder then why it didn't and wasn't as effective as it could be.
Agreed. I think Martin's come back with the colour of purple of MBM logo is the perfect mix of red and blue, chosen on purpose.
No, it wasn't. I'd love to say it was. The irony is our head of the ship, so to speak, colourblind, so you probably wouldn't have even known that. I'm not sure if he's in today, but yeah, I think that was plugged. I'd love to have said yes to that. I might take that and run with it and make that my own.
I thought I missed the MBM logo bit at the beginning of the thing, and I thought that was kind of a poke at my shirt from Monday or something. But
yeah,
we'll come back to that. So Gareth's got here very helpful tips on recognising styles, although important not to be caught pigeonholing it, which is something that we have reinforced time and time again, and not pigeonholing or modelling someone needs to be subtle. So it is although important not to be caught pigeonholing or modelling someone, it needs to be subtle. So you're looking for those what's the word I'm looking for? Not tripwise is the wrong word, but they're just those core elements, those individual words that just allude to the breadcrumbs of actually what this person's style is, so you can actually have a fuller conversation.
I think so. And if you try to do it in a way that feels a little bit pretentious, it's going to be spotted a mile away, and you lose your credibility. Often when we do this with teams, it's done in a very open way and everyone's very comfortable sharing their profiles. What they then overtly get is that common language that they can start to share. I think the moment we start pointing fingers across the office, oh, I think they're a red or I think they're a yellow, I think we're doing this a huge disservice, and we're also, more importantly, doing them a huge disservice as well. It's absolutely not about pigeonholing. It is about just better understanding ourselves and others.
Agreed. What question? What's been useful to everyone that's listening today? What's been of value? What's resonated for you that you're going to take away from this session that's going to help you, improve and build these conversations? And the second part of that is, what questions have you got? So what's been of value, and what other questions have you got right now? And if you haven't got any, by all means, put no in the box, just so we know that you've got everything you need today. Good. So while that's coming through, I'll put the link in there again for the HBDI profiles, and the discount code is in there as well. So if you're looking and you want to get that deeper understanding, click on that link, get yourself a profile if you haven't already done so you can start to get that clarity. Because this stuff's really going to be useful for when we go into feedback, or if you go back and look at the leadership stuff. The other part as well is, if you have not signed up for next week's session about feedback, and I'm going to add a little bit to that in a minute, now is the time to do that. We'll get the link in there for next week's Sticky Learning Lunch, which is there right now, so you can get signed up for next week. Now, anyone here that has people in their responsibility, anyone here that is associated with another leader of people that thinks that they would benefit from learning about how to deliver feedback in a very thoughtful, structured fashion that gets results every single time, share that link with them. We're going to be doing feedback for 4 days, and I'm going to take you through start to finish every single level of delivering feedback using a very specific framework that's going to help you get better results in what you do. If you know people that are going to benefit from that, copy that link, email it to them, tell them I would love to see them in the room, and I'm going to be sharing some really key elements that are going to make feedback really work. So what have we got coming through? Apply this model on feedback, certainly useful. Yes, it is. And then when we do next week, it's going to make it 1,000 times more powerful when you get into that. What we've got here, be vigilant of wording used describing profiles so as not to unintentionally pigeonhole. Absolutely, Cindy, that's amazing. Like, if you take that away, you'll be looking for the words, but you won't be, separating or isolating people through that language. All good, no questions. Thanks, guys. Gareth, very welcome. No questions from me. Thanks to both of you, very interesting. Nice foundation for feedback. Signed up, ready for these sessions. Colin, great, glad you're in the room. I don't think Colin's missed a single episode, which is amazing. Thank you, Colin, for the support. Garrett's been here for a lot of them as well. Howard has been engaged with those as well. It's been amazing. Tim's been in a lot of these as well. Fabian's been here for a lot of the last ones as well. What is a 10% coupon code to get? The coupon code in there, if you scroll up to a little bit higher, that is 10% voucher code. So when you go and get your HBDI profile, you can put that in, it will give you 10% off, I believe, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. If you page down for me just in our deck of slides, that's it. That's effectively what you get. You'll complete 120 questions. It will give you an understanding, or give you your Herrmann profile, your profile in terms of what it looks like across those quadrants and your preferences. So bear with me, you'll get the equivalent of one of those. And then the other pages that maybe you see on there with the explanation, the booklet that supports it, and the full pack. What also comes with that is digital debrief. So we take what we've covered in the last 3 days, but gets into a far more appropriate level of information, so you can really understand that. And that kind of digital e-learning debrief supports that pack. And at the same time, having that conversation with us on a one-to-one or a group basis to ensure that you've got exactly what you need and you feel very comfortable with the results, for want of a better word, of this assessment.
Awesome. Great share. Amazing. So Fabian says, well done as always. Thanks very much, Fabian. Appreciate your engagement and your time being here. We are on the half hour. In fact, we are 1 minute over. Thanks very much, everyone, for being here. You've got the contact details, the connection details for next week's training sessions. You've got the connection details there to go and get your HBD profile as well. The only other thing that I'm going to share with you all right now is the virtual classrooms. If you, your team, would benefit from a conversation with either Andy or myself in supporting you in any of these leadership, soft skills, niche skill sets that are required for the grocery and the supermarket industries and the manufacturing, such as category management, the link's there, the virtual classrooms. Click on the link, come through, have a conversation with us so that we can help you and your business be the best version it can be. Andy, thanks very much for today. Really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure as always, Nathan.